Look. I'm just going to say this. When Vic Fangio is brutally honest, we listen to everything that is said. Okay. We heard from the coordinators the other day, Vic Fangio, Kell Moore. We heard news about Bryce Huff, the linebacker core with Nakobe Dean and Devin White and all of that, and a lot more. So let's get straight into the video.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. I can't talk today, but hopefully everyone's enjoying their work week. We have Monday Night Football week 2 next Monday night. Can't wait. Very excited. But we heard from our two coordinators today, the other day, and Vic Fangio and Kell Moore. We love Vic Fangio because he doesn't really shy away from saying what's right, what's the truth, and we got a whole bunch of news from Vic Fangio today. Some big news today. Number one, talking about the linebacker position with Nakobe Dean. Okay, now Vic was asked who will start this week for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it looks like yes. Nakobe Dean will be starting this week. Devin White will be the backup. I think Devin White is healthy. I know from what Vic said, he tweaked his ankle last week, but still thinks that Nakobe Dean, as said in this press conference, Nakobe Dean beat out Devin White in training camp. From what we said, is it a lie? I don't know. When I see Isaiah Rodgers starting at corner as the number 2 corner most of camp, and he technically would have played the first week if he was healthy, other than that hand injury he had, that makes sense. But Nakobe Dean didn't really start that much with the first team in training camp. He got rotated into the first team at times, but that was pretty much it. And you're telling me Devin White had all the snaps in the offseason program at middle linebacker, and yet Nakobe Dean still beat him out. Kind of hard to believe. I think he's just trying to make himself look a little bit better. I don't know. I don't believe that Nakobe Dean was the sure option from beginning to end of training camp, but we did hear rumors that by the end of training camp, the tide was starting to change a little bit while Nakobe Dean was actively going to be the starting linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a great thing, guys. This is a great thing. As much as we don't think much in his pass coverage, his downhill pass coverage, too, is obviously trying to chase people behind him. We think that is the biggest weakness he has right now, being more downhill as a run defender and just being disruptive as hell as he did. And obviously having almost that pick 6 that he had last week, and just being very excited for him. And trust me, I will beat on these players as much as possible when it comes to, if they're not kind of living up to the standard of what they really should be. Nakobe Dean's on a first-round pick. I think we all know this. But, I like to see that Vic is not playing favorites by someone being a veteran over Nakobe Dean. But he says that Devin White will still be here as a depth piece. I heard Eagle fans talking about trading Devin White. You need to keep as many linebackers in the building as possible. It would be the biggest mistake trading Devin White. The biggest mistake. Don't make it. I don't care. I don't even honestly care if somebody offered a 3rd-round pick for Devin White. We need Devin White. God forbid Nakobe Dean gets hurt. God forbid, knock on wood, because anything could happen at this position. We'll talk about Zack Bonnell in this video as well. But Nakobe Dean is slated to be the starter this week. It's great news, and I'm really glad that I just didn't want Nakobe Dean after that game to get benched for Devin White just to come right in and then kind of stunt his growth and kind of stunt just the work that he's already put in already. And then you're kind of just shelving him and just wasting him at this point. And I'm glad they're not doing that with Nakobe Dean, so he gets another shot in another week. Monday Night Football at home. Can't wait to see more from him. Now, we had some news about Bryce Huff, okay? The $17 million man, okay? I don't know what his snap count was percentage-wise in that Friday night game in Brazil against the Packers, but from what Vic Fangio has talked about the other day on Bryce Huff is how he's going to earn more snaps as a Philadelphia Eagle as an edge rusher, okay? He needs to separate himself more from the pack, and it seems like he hasn't done that, okay? I think the coordinators know that the field conditions weren't great, okay? Bryce Huff had 2 assistant tackles. That's all he had, okay? That's all he had in that Packers game. But to be honest, guys, who really had a big game on the defensive line? Not much of anybody. Were guys getting pressures like Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat? Sure, guys were getting pressures when it mattered, but not only is the edge position still in question to me because I think the DTs are actually a really good group going forward, but Bryce Huff, man, Fangio took him out of position, made him, put him in the pass coverage, which is something he's never done before. Just remember, Bryce Huff is an undrafted free agent, okay? And really built himself, worked really hard, and got to where he was his last year with the Jets. 10 sacks, heavy rotation for the Jets as really a third down edge rusher at this point. So it's a little alarming, but like I said, at the same time, I think you have to give other players just time in general. This is a new defense. This is a new defensive coordinator, and that field was a catastrophe. Give me until week 4, week 5 to really tell you. I mean, we should be seeing Bryce Huff, and I'm hoping we'll get a couple sacks. We'll be more disruptive. We know he'll be in pass coverage, but Vic feels like he hasn't really earned more snaps because there's no pressure. And Vic talked about the pressure from the defensive line and talked about the field and talked about everything. So I think we just have to give this another week on dry field and really another test. I know Bryce Huff could pass rush. I think the field had a lot to do with that. The big Reed touchdown from Jordan Love down the field, Bryce Huff slipped like twice. He slipped, got up, slipped again, couldn't get any pressure. Clean pocket for Jordan Love for that deep pass for the touchdown to Reed. So, you know what I mean? I think the whole defensive line struggled. No one was able to get their hands on the quarterback, barely. So that's the news on Bryce Huff. And, he's getting paid some money now. So, you want to see that production. Like I said, we've only been through one game. This isn't week 6 of the season. It's one game, so we have to take it like that. Now, Brandon Graham, a lot of news circulating around him. And Fangio is not treating Graham like he needs some quote-unquote ceremonial year where they have to be careful with him. They're unleashing, like Fangio is unleashing Brandon Graham. He thinks he's a fantastic player. And they're just unleashing him at this point. So they're not trying to be careful with him because he's going to retire after this year and anything like that. The man's going to play. He's going to play his heart out, and Fangio is just going to just let him attack and do his thing. So that was really nice to hear. We had news on Cooper DeJean as well. He's not ready yet. Unfortunately, he's still quote unquote behind that. They're trying to still catch him up with everything. Due time, guys, he probably will be the moving piece in our defense. I don't know if they even have interest in putting him at safety, if that's what they want to do. They put in Tristan McCollum in the first game when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson ended up getting hurt, and the DeJean wasn't even put in at that point. You got to remember, guys, he missed a lot of time. He missed a lot of time. He hasn't even practiced for technically like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So that's not a lot of time. Missing a whole offseason program, playing the last preseason game, really showing us that he really stuck out like a sore thumb, which was great. So he got a lot of attention there and had a little bit of snaps in that first game. But what I really want this year is I really want Quignon to be on the outside. Like Isaiah Rodgers, I don't know what they're doing with him. If he plays well, doesn't play well, I hope he plays well on Monday night. But theoretically, future-wise, maybe at the rest of this year, I really want DeJean to be in that nickel spot. I really want Quignon to be on that outside spot as the number 2 because this man has to play this year. We're missing a very high talented player in this defense. So it looks like this is going to be another week of just a very limited role for Cooper DeJean. I'd say give it another couple weeks after this week, and then he'll be fully into what he's doing, and we'll see what happens with Cooper DeJean. And Zack Bonnell has been one of the biggest surprises for us as Eagles fans because, like we talked about Zack Bonnell nonstop, is that he was a role player for the Saints last year. As an outside linebacker, transitioned from a defensive end, and Vic Fangio pretty much said, I really wasn't betting on him becoming an inside linebacker for the Eagles. I didn't think it was really going to happen. Didn't think he was really going to do it well, but he ended up becoming very good in that inside linebacker spot, which is fantastic. We know Zack Bonnell, 15 tackles, 11 solo tackles, and 2 sacks in his first game. He keeps playing like this. We made videos about it already. It's going to be interesting to see in like 5-6 weeks. Like, do the Eagles try to re-sign this guy as early as possible? This way they have another strength on this team long term. I never thought Zack Bonnell was going to do much of anything this year, but when he got in camp, it just seemed like Vic Fangio, this was the teacher's pet favorite when it came to this defense at linebacker. Zack Bonnell, hearing his name all the time in press conferences. Even his introductory press conference of a player he really liked was Zack Bonnell. This guy didn't come off of a fantastic year with the Saints. He didn't, he's been really a nobody the last few years. Is Vic Fangio getting the best out of him? He is like the new Van Ginkel of this team. Van Ginkel was a nobody for 3 years with Miami. Went, last year, Fangio, was the defensive coordinator and really brought the best out of Van Ginkel a lot. So could be another one of those players where this is just a Vic Fangio type player that might not work anywhere else, that Vic Fangio is the only one that get the most out of him. And it's been something to watch, no doubt. So I think that's been really good. So that was the press conference for Vic Fangio. A lot of good information here, but the number one thing I really did like was Nakobe Dein obviously getting that starting job this week, which is awesome. Can't wait for that. Now, Kell Moore had his press conference as well. A lot to discuss regarding some of the players. Nothing crazy, but, we talked about the 2 picks that happened in the game. Obviously, the one when we were deep into our own side of the field near the end zone, where, Saquon slipped on the 6, and then we were backed up on the 6, really, and then, Hurts threw that pick, and obviously the big end zone pick that, is Jalen Hurts' fault? But at the same time, there was some slippage from A.J. Brown. So it goes, I think, on both sides. It's play calling. It's Hurts really, how he handles that situation where, you're rolling out and throwing across your body is still not a great thing. But at the same time, got to make better decisions as well. But Kell Moore did say that his 2 interceptions versus the Packers were outliers. Okay, so I think these coaches know that a lot of this, especially Jalen Hurts, didn't look fast in this game. I think the field and how crappy it was a big factor. It was a huge factor. I'm sorry. I know I say it a million times, but it was. I saw the defensive line slip a million times. The receivers for Green Bay, the quarter. I mean, it was happening with everybody. Devontae Smith, I saw him slip a couple times. There was just a lot going on in that game. And obviously coming Monday night, he should look more sharper, more comfortable, and he won't be afraid to run as much at full speed. And, you got to be careful as the quarterback. You're the first man that has the ball in his hands, and on a crappy field, you got to be careful. You have to be conservative. You don't want to be, but, you have to make sure you protect that ball and not give up some easy play for the Packers. And they didn't do that, which was great. But, I thought that was, I just to see what Kell Moore thought of that situation was interesting. Another thing about Johnny Wilson. So Johnny Wilson had about 10 snaps in this game. It seems like Kell Moore loves Johnny Wilson. I know he was targeted once in the game, was that when Jalen Hurts extended the play on the right side, threw that ball where he had that open patch of grass in front of him. He didn't run. He ended up throwing this ball that wasn't really going to go anywhere to Johnny Wilson on the right sideline. Didn't get it, but seems like because of his, Johnny Wilson's good blocking, I didn't really check too much of that because there was just so much to really look at in that first game. But apparently his blocking is fantastic. Kell Moore is going to be using him a lot more as the season goes on. We're excited about Johnny Wilson. It's unfortunate he missed some time towards the end of preseason, which really sucked because he had that concussion for like 2.5 weeks. Almost 3. 2.5 weeks probably. He had it for a long time. Seems like Johnny Wilson could be used for red zone, and it seems like the blocking has been more of the big value from Johnny Wilson. We saw it in the preseason games, so nice to hear that. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. We heard from Vic Fangio. We heard from Kell Moore. What do you guys think about the linebacker position? Nakobe Dean starting, Devin White behind. What do you guys think about Zack Bonnell so far? And when do you think Dein will be fully ready to, be a part of this defense? Because that's another player that's going to play at a high level for us going into this season. You guys let me know in the comments section below. And if you haven't liked the video, please like the video. It helps out the channel tremendously. And subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day. We'll have streams this week. We'll be streaming live play-by-play reaction of the Eagles Falcons game on Monday night at the link. And I will see you guys on the next one. Shakes it up, false side. Peace out, guys. Peace.